All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the SoulCast, our first episode post-Evo, and it's most likely going to be pretty exciting because, as always, Evo is going to be giving us some pretty controversial topics and some crazy stuff, so hopefully this will be, if nothing else, entertaining for you guys. So with that, I am Zhang, Scott, Zhang on the boards, obviously, and I'm going to be your host. And if you've been keeping up to date with the front page of 8-Way Run, you've probably already seen some interviews with the top two placers at Evo, Shining Dekpon, and then I can't remember how it's pronounced, like Shenzhen or something like that. But nothing with the U.S. players, which is kind of BS for a U.S. site, to be quite frank with everybody. So we're going to break that little stretch here, and my guest today is the highest placer, number three, the second runner-up for Evo. Something unique. What's going on, dude?
Not much. Feeling really good. Still kind of sad a little bit about Evo, but I'm all right.
Well, hey, it was there were a lot of competitors there, so I know there's a lot of people out there that have the second is the first loser sort of mentality, but top three at the biggest event in the world, pretty fucking good if you ask me. So I don't know if you can really go home too sad about that. But with that being said, a lot of people on the boards know your name, know who you are, but there are a lot of people out there who didn't go to Evo, didn't get the chance, or maybe they just don't go out to events very often. So as kind of an introductory discussion topic, like with all my guests, kind of give us a little background on who you are, where you come from, what kinds of games do you play, has it always been Caliber for you, just kind of give us a little background on your gaming career.
Well, my tag name is something unique, or abbreviated SU, or abbreviated unique. As far as Soul Calibur goes, I started in Soul Calibur 4. I was actually a pretty good, famous online player at the time, and basically that transferred into offline for me because someone had suggested that I go. At the time, I believe it was Crazy CD and RTE, and that's what prompted me to go to my first offline tournament for Soul Calibur 4. And I was lucky enough to win my very first offline tournament for Soul Calibur 4. As far as the games that I play pretty much everything from Tekken to Street Fighter to Marvel to DOA. Actually, oddly enough, I actually started in DOA as an online warrior way back in the day, a long time ago, around the time of DOA 2U. So I have background history with Tom Brady, Perfect Legend, Master, Vanessa, all these people that you see currently playing in DOA now. And back then, when DOA didn't actually have an offline scene, all they really had at the time was an online scene. And I was also an online warrior, and I think I was at the time I was one of the top three. It was me, Master, and Offbeat Ninja. And what actually happened is I ended up leaving that game right before it got sponsored, I can't remember the name of it. I don't know if it's WGC or CGS. I can't remember the exact title when DOA got sponsored. I can't remember. It's not coming to me right now. But so I started off with DOA and I branched off into everything else.
Nice. So do you play anything else competitively, or is it just Caliber? Because you mentioned like Tekken, Marvel, all that stuff. Do you actually enter for those things?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really been competing in much of anything besides Caliber because I seem to play a lot of things, but I don't seem to take many things very serious. Like, for example, when Tekken 6 had just came out, the very first tournament I entered for it was a Buffalo tournament when it first came out. And I had placed, top 8. I made 5th, I believe, at that. I had GM first round, so I actually had to come from the losers from the very, very start. As far as Marvel goes, I haven't actually went to any tournaments, but I actually do plan to pick that game back up seriously. I actually registered for that Evo, but I mixed up my time with my Mortal Kombat pool, and then I ended up getting DQ'd.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. I got DQ'd for Marvel and Mortal Kombat, ironically. I didn't make either.
Well, I guess you made up for it a little bit, Caliber, not being able to compete in those. But,
Yeah.
Well, since you've kind of opened the door then to EVO, we might as well just jump right into it. I'm guessing this isn't your first EVO, correct?
Actually, this is my first EVO.
It is? Oh, well, that's actually awesome. It makes a better discussion topic in that case. So give us a little bit of an overview about how your first EVO went. And, I don't know if you didn't branch out of the casino very much, but, a lot of people, at least, like me, I'm older, I can't really keep up with these kids in the video game area anymore. So when I go to EVO or Vegas, I usually do the whole Vegas thing. So kind of tell us what you did. Did you hang around the hotel the whole time, or how did that go?
I did a couple things. The one thing I didn't do though was actually gamble. I didn't gamble at any of the casinos, even though I walked around all the casinos. I actually stopped by the pool area. We went to a couple. Actually, didn't go into many clubs, but I hung out outside of the club or something like that to that extent. The problem is because I almost actually didn't make it to EVO, and when I did make it to EVO, it was on life support, so I didn't have much money to do many things until I actually won the check for the last 2 days being there. I actually wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for LP and RTD. They actually paid for my flight to get out there, so I was on I was kind of on life support for a while, so I didn't get to do much. But the last 2 days, I went and got a couple drinks. I went to the pool with Malcolm. We was in the pool area for quite some time. We walked around. We actually took a taxi because I was trying to cash the check. So we actually took a taxi outside of Vegas, which looked completely different than Vegas, I might add. One lady suggested that I don't even necessarily leave Vegas because it's a different area. It's not as nice, quote unquote, as she put it.
Yeah.
So I did a couple things like that. Most of the time I spent with Chicago in the hotel, and Mystic building their hotel and Baines's room. I spent a lot of time with the people that was actually there, but I didn't gamble, which is the number one thing you're supposed to do when you go to Vegas.
That and drink, but
I drunk. So.
Oh yeah, I have a feeling that a lot of those guys probably are big fans of the booze, so that doesn't surprise me at all. Okay, so you were hanging around the hotel. It sounds like gaming was your number one priority for the most part. So give us your grade on EVO. How did you like the tournament? Was it everything you expected, or what? Aside from the Caliber tournament and placing third, obviously that's pretty good. But outside of that, in general, did you like EVO? Do you think maybe it was kind of kind of give us your opinion on it?
Compared to all other tournaments that I've been to so far, I would definitely say that EVO has to be by far the best. You could probably make some small comparisons or some small arguments that in some regard MLG is a little bit better, just based on their venue and how they treat the casuals and the stations that they have. But I have nothing but positives to say about EVO. If I had to grade it, I would give it an easy A+. It's just such a different experience. There's just so much space. There's so much hype. You just meet everybody. It's more so fun because everybody wants to go there. It's like the main event. Everyone's going to go and everyone's going to party and everyone's going to drink. So, in that regard, to me, EVO is by far the best. But if it's one negative I had, we were standing for quite some time during pool play. We didn't actually have anywhere to really sit. We didn't actually have any station set up for casuals. It was mostly just down to business, which is pretty strange because to me, seeing how EVO was the biggest, I would think they would have casual stations all over the place, which in fact they really didn't. You had to bring your own station. So that was pretty interesting, but I would definitely say the location is very nice and the experience is like none other.
Nice. Yeah, I know over the years, Evo has transformed the whole casual thing a little bit because, they've gotten so big and there's so many people there and there's, you have merch tents and stuff set up that essentially what they've done is they've kind of put that burden for casuals on the players. It's kind of assumed that, somebody or multiple people are going to have like their rooms set up for casuals. So when people actually get there, they're already ready. But I agree, it would be nice because they did used to have like casual rooms and stuff, but they kind of did away with that, once it got to be a certain size. But I noticed watching the streams, just like every other year, there's just all sorts of people sitting on the floor, watching the stream or watching the big screen and stuff. So not too surprised about the standing room, but hey, if you've been to a tournament, chances are you've stood for a while, so nothing new, I guess. But as far as the games are concerned, down to business, we might as well talk about the actual tournament itself. So as watching it on the stream as a spectator, it felt like they ran the brackets pretty well. I felt it was kind of goofy that they're still running paper brackets, but the online brackets were they were updated fairly fast and they were pretty easy to read. And aside from the very, very rare error like the Kiev Kura match, it felt like it was run pretty smoothly. So since you were actually in the tournament and you actually experienced it, do you think that it was run as smoothly as it looks, or were there maybe some hiccups that you thought they could have done better?
From my personal experience, I would definitely say it was run pretty smooth. It was definitely run smooth. I had no problems looking for anyone or in my bracket or in my pool, however you want to phrase it. I had absolutely no issues personally.
And then how did you feel about like the setups that they did have for the tournament play? Did you have enough room? I mean, it felt like everybody was crowded around watching the big the stream matches and stuff like that. But I mean, did you feel like you had enough space, like it was a good environment to play a tournament match?
Yes. What actually happened is they had a table with, I can't remember the exact number, but they had a table with at least 4 to 6 setups per table. And so there was enough room for leg room. There was 2 seats per table, obviously. I mean, 2 seats per screen, obviously. You had enough leg room. You had enough room to breathe, to move around. Like, it wasn't claustrophobic or too cluttered because everyone was in the venue pretty much doing something completely different because they had all kinds of games there and stands or whatever they had. So it was like you had room to do what you needed to do. It definitely didn't feel claustrophobic, and it was very convenient.
Gotcha. So let's talk about let's get into the nitty gritty specifics of the actual tournament. So let's talk about your matches specifically. Obviously you got third, so you just from that alone, it assumes that you had to have played a lot of matches. So aside from the stuff that we saw on the stream or, maybe final day, give us a little bit of some highlights, some maybe matches that everyone didn't see or didn't get a chance to see, or maybe some moments that, people might have missed. Like what were some of your highlights going through the tournament?
That's a little bit difficult to say. I was actually in one of, I would argue, one of the 4 most difficult pools of the tournaments going into the event. I didn't have the most difficult one, but it was arguably one of the most difficult, C27. I had Crazy CD, Dream Killer, EMP Black Mamba, I had Sora, I had Aopai, a very, very well-known Virtua Fighter 5 player. He plays Pi. Those were mainly the people in my bracket, and the hardest match of that pool at the time I would definitely say is Crazy. I didn't actually have any problems until the winners finals. So, but I believe most of my matches was actually streamed. Like, me against Crazy was streamed. Right after that, I had to play Shining Decapon, the winner between him and Partisan, and Decapon had actually won. And funny enough, I had actually called that match pre-Evo. I was talking about how, because during MLG, I believe it was Anaheim, when I met Takedo, he happened to tell me that their best Japanese player was Decapon. Mm-hmm. So I already knew who the guy was going into the tournament. And I'm not exactly sure where I posted it on 8-Way Run, but I also notified people to practice up on the Terra matchup. because of that exact reason. Yeah, so like I wasn't too surprised when he beat Partisan, and I was already outlining my bracket, so I kind of expected to play him. When I first played him, I wasn't exactly impressed per se, because I actually beat him 5-1. The match that we played, despite the fact that he beat me 5-1 later in the tournament, to win the entire tournament. So I played him on stream, I played Crazy on stream, I played Kura on stream.
So let me throw this question at you then. Who was the funnest to compete with? Or if you want to phrase it another way, like most entertaining or challenging, however you interpret it. Who was like your the match you enjoyed the most?
The match I enjoyed the most would probably have to be Ramon. My own New York mate, because he was the only person prior to the top 8 that actually took a round off of me and actually beat me. Other than him, it was just 2-0 all the way through the tournament. He actually almost beat me. I had to get off Pero one game and actually switch to Maxi. I'm sure he's going to be happy to hear that. Yeah, it came down to the wire. I had no health, and he ran right into a 6A plus B Brave Edge. Like, literally, he just ran all the way up to me, tried to get the last hit, and he got hit by a 6A plus B Brave Edge for the win. So that was really, 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 really close.
I can only imagine he was pretty salty about that.
Yeah, he was mad. He was definitely upset. Because right after that, he lost to another Maxi player. So, yeah, he was definitely upset. But I would have to say that was the hardest match I had throughout the tournament until top 8.
Gotcha. So I guess let's talk about top 8 a little bit. I got kind of a tricky question for you. So obviously, you took a set from Shining Decapon before you guys met again in Final 8, but going into the tournament, do you feel like you were adequately prepared and you just had an off day on finals day, or do you think there were some maybe some moments or some knowledge that you didn't have going into that?
All right, here goes the thing, okay? I'm known as a choker. I kind of choke under pressure when I get to the top. And the reason why I say this is because every single tournament, about 95% of the tournaments that I actually participate in, I make it into top 8 or whatever, no problems. Roughly no problems, give or take. I always make it into top 8, no matter the caliber of the tournament, because it was funny. I was actually telling a couple of people that I will make it in top 8 in EVO, despite the fact that it was the biggest. But I told them at the exact same time I was concerned that I would actually be able to win it, because I don't know, it's just something about me that I crack under pressure, I guess, during top. Because when I lost to Decapon in top 8, I was actually really nervous. I knew the matchup. I didn't know exactly what kind of damage Terra can get, like what her combos look like, but I knew the matchup because I prepared for it ahead of time. So there's definitely no excuse there. And at the time when I had lost top 8, LP and Crazy and them was all discussing all the things I did wrong. They said I was looking kind of free, like I wasn't punishing things that I normally would do. And at the time I was like, you know what, the guy just beat me 2-0, he just beat Woes 2-0, and he just beat Shen Chan, who had, 6 games to figure it out, 5-1. So at the time I was like, you know what, he was just a better player at that point in time. Now what happened is, after that, I got a chance to look at the videos. And after watching it, I realized that it's classic SU choking. Literally. Yeah, because it didn't even look like the same player that was playing prior to top 8. Like, I just literally froze up. I wasn't punishing whiffs. There was one round, actually, which is pretty funny. There was one round where Decapon actually threw me, I think, 7 times in a row. 7 to 6 times in a row, and I stood there, and I didn't even think I threw out an attack. I just kept trying to break it or duck it, like one or the other. Like, I was literally just choking. Huh. The best way to explain it. I have to admit it.
Do you think that you would have performed well, how do I phrase this question? Okay, do you think that it was the stigma of top 8 that caused that, or do you think had the tournament kept going on Friday that you would have done better and played better?
It's funny that you said that. those exact words because a lot of people during the event said that if the tournament was still on Friday, I would have won it no problem. Which is interesting that you said that you would. Do I feel like I would have won on Friday? Because that's what a lot of other people said.
Well, and that's a big, I guess, criticism of bigger events because they do often break the final, 8 or 4, whatever it is, into another day. And a lot of people think that doing that drastically changes the results because it puts some players on ice. And, momentum, you can't say enough for momentum. If somebody has momentum, they're feeling good, their reactions are good. You never know what's going to happen between then and then finals day. So, I know it's a criticism that's been thrown out there, but I just want to know what your opinion on it was, if you felt that it would have changed despite what everybody else was saying. I just want to know if that's what you think happened.
Honestly, if the tournament was finished up on Friday, I definitely think I would have won it. But unfortunately, that's not the reality, Because I kind of know the kind of player that I am. I know, when I'm losing a match, I can quickly understand what went wrong. Which is, if you don't mind, I'll go back to the me versus Ramon thing for a second.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
During that match, the first game, he beat me 3-0 with Pera to Pera, 3 rounds straight. Now, what happens is I have a way of dissecting a style of play, and Ramon had switched it up in a way that I've never seen him play before. He was very cheap, turtley, just went for the guard crush and simple throws. And at the time, I didn't see myself figuring out fast enough with Pera. And that's what actually prompted me at the time to switch to Maxi, because I felt like Maxi could be just as cheap, or he could do the same stuff that Ramon is doing, the same kind of play style. Or perhaps one of the main reasons why I picked Maxi is that for me, he's a different style of play. If you ask me why I would pick Maxi against Pera, it would just be based on style of play, because I believe Pera actually beats Maxi. My point is that I have this thing where I feel like certain play styles, certain characters benefit a certain kind of play style that might be necessary for me to use at that point in time. And I don't know if anyone noticed, but when I was playing Decapon in top 8 during losers, I was actually sitting on Maxi for quite some time. I don't know if you realized it yourself. And to me, I ended up not picking him because Ramon and them suggested that I didn't. But I feel like I should have done that. Not for the matchup specifically, but just for the style of play, because I'm more aggro with Max than I am any other character, and I felt like that would have benefited me in that match.
Well,
if that makes any sense.
Oh, yeah, no, I completely understand that. And that is the downside of having the peanut gallery. Because I've seen it, I've seen guys, walk away and take a break for a minute, between sets or whatever, after they're having some struggles. And they go over and they talk with their little advisory council, and then they come back and boom, they're on fire. But at the same time, if your cabinet of ministers don't give you the right, right information, and, you sometimes can make a bad choice. So I definitely understand that. But I did want to ask about Tira specifically, since we've kind of been skirting around the topic. So, Shining Decapani is obviously a Tira player. He took home the gold. But I wanted to know about your opinion about the character as well as the outcome of the event. Because this is a topic that we've touched on before in other podcasts. But do you think it was the player? Do you think it was him that made that happen? Or do you think the character was stronger than maybe people think? And the best way that I can phrase it is when Heaton was on, he was very much about the player. He's like, it doesn't matter what character you are, I'll money match you with your own character to show you that your character is viable. So do you think that he just put the time in with her, or do you think maybe he just caught everybody off guard?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I would definitely give more credit to the fact that it's the player. Because watching Decapon come out of losers and during the top 8 finals day, to me, he did a lot of things that is the mark of a good player. He switched it up when he needed to. He came out with a different kind of pressure. like I believe in an interview he said he decided to put on more pressure during top 8 day, which looking at the matches he really did. He put on a lot of pressure. He pulled out all the tech that he had. His spacing was there. His decision making was definitely top notch. As far as the character goes, I feel like Tara is like a little bit underrated because pre-patch, I thought she was actually pretty ridiculous and gloomy. And even though she got nerfed, and I do think she's worse now, I still believe in gloomy that Tara is a very, very, very powerful character, arguably top 5.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it's a combination, but I would definitely give more credit to Decapon as a player as opposed to the character.
Gotcha. So well, that's what, to be completely honest with you, as far as the tournament itself goes and like certain matches and whatnot, that's really all the questions that I have about that. So before we kind of move on to more grand topics and subjects, any last thoughts or any other comments that you have about the tournament that maybe we haven't mentioned or haven't gone over? Like maybe there's a player we didn't talk about, or characters, or some sort of random technology that you happen to see that you thought was pretty interesting.
Actually, I do have one thing I was kind of disappointed in during top 8, and it was the fact that Evo decided not to follow the traditional best of 5 during winners and losers finals. I don't think anyone actually noticed that, but winners and losers finals was best of 3. Which was kind of heartbreaking to me, seeing how I made it all the way to winners, got into winners finals, was kind of expecting a best out of 5, and got best out of 3 in both situations. You know, but other than that,
for the brackets, they were just 2 out of 3 as well, correct? The entire way to the pools.
Yeah, for the pools. Yeah.
That is really weird. You know, that's funny that you mentioned that, because pretty much every tournament it's standard. Once you get to the top 3 or 4 for those final matches, you switch it to a longer set.
Exactly. And another thing is, I didn't actually get a chance to watch the Marvel finals, but before Evo, they was talking about how Marvel, I believe, what was it, top 128? I can't remember the exact number, was going to be best of 5 for all matches. So I don't actually know if they followed through on that, but if they did, it just kind of seems, tacky.
Yeah.
That they would do best of 5 for every top Marvel match, and they couldn't do best of 5 for losers and winners finals.
Yeah,
which kind of sucked.
It's an interesting question for sure. Unfortunately, neither of us can answer it, but it'd be interesting to see why they exactly made that decision and why they felt that Caliber didn't deserve the best 3 out of 5 as opposed to 2 out of 3. But yeah, that's an interesting observation, because I until you just mentioned it, I completely forgot about that. And
yeah,
I thought, but well, most people.
I do have.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, as far as players that I was pleasantly surprised by at the event, my number 1 pick would definitely be Shen Wan, the Siegfried player, the one who qualified for SBO. I felt like he was probably arguably the most technical player at the entire tournament, and he just had the worst kind of luck in terms of bracket, having to play the one person that beats him all the time, which is Shen Chen, his own Singapore friend.
That's really weird, because that wasn't that they weren't in the same pool, right? They were in different pools, but he eventually ran into him. Okay. Yeah, because that's that's always the downside of when you have people traveling for tournaments. You try your best to seed people, but every once in a while they'll still run into each other, roommates or whatever. But so, who was his second loss to? Aside from
I believe the guy's name was Kamagi. He was a Mitsu player. He was one of the top 8 players. I believe his name was Kamage.
Yes, yeah. I do remember him, because people were making a big deal about him, because I guess he got knocked into losers early, and then somehow fought his way all the way through to top 8. So, because I if I remember correctly, it was second round. He lost his second match of the entire tournament. So that's a lot of heat on a player.
Yeah, definitely.
Usually, if you make top 8 and you're in losers, you don't get there for a while. So pretty interesting. Okay. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You're fine.
Oh well, I was gonna say that's all I have for the actual like tournament, like the bracket stuff and whatnot. I did want to ask about the streaming stuff because I wanted to talk about that a little bit. When you were on stream, could you actually hear those guys at all, or were they a good distance away from you?
Actually, I couldn't hear them. But it was probably more so because of the actual speakers that was behind us. We was behind the speakers that had Street Fighter on it, and Street Fighter was extremely, extremely loud.
Oh wow!
So yeah, all you really heard was either Street Fighter through the speakers, or like if you had your own headphones on, you couldn't really hear much of anyone.
Ah, gotcha. Have you gone back and like watched any of the matches with the stream commentary on there, or did you just watch like replays?
Actually, I did see one match. I can't remember which one it was, but Iris was making a joke about Ramon. He was actually sitting behind. I forgot who was playing. He was sitting behind the seat, and he said Ramon like had a creepy face. He had like a stalker face. Like it was one match. I don't know. When I saw that, like the commentary to me was really, really funny. Yeah. But I didn't actually go through and see all the matches yet.
I agree. It was definitely entertaining listening to him and then Bibulus as well. But so overall, it sounds like your opinion of the commentary, it was pretty high, pretty entertaining. You thought it was a good mix in there of what you heard.
Yes. Yeah, as far as the ones that I saw, the commentary was pretty good.
So, out of curiosity, I don't know if you followed the Eris thing, because we talked about it a long time ago, because he had the whole cross assault issue. Were you surprised at all that they asked him to do the commentary?
No. He does excellent commentary. I've heard his commentary for Tekken, and he seems very knowledgeable about quite a few things, so I wasn't surprised. What I was surprised at, actually, was Bibulus not being on commentary during Top 8. Instead, Markman and Filthy Rich. I personally have no problem with any of the commentators. It doesn't matter to me. I'll listen to any one of them. But I was actually surprised that Bibulus wasn't on commentary during Top 8.
Yeah, I noticed they, for any of the Namco games, they've done that at any tournament that both of those guys are there, just because, they're connected. Markman, obviously, he's connected with Mad Cats, and then
makes sense.
Yeah, and then Filthy Rich is the community manager for Namco. So I have no doubt that's why they do it. They want to get those guys on there for whatever reason, company spokesmen or however you want to phrase it. So I guess that's not too surprising, but I agree. I think that more people would want to hear from players who are a little bit more knowledgeable about the game. Not that I have a problem with either one of those guys. I mean, Markman's actually, both of them have been long-time Tekken guys, so they know gaming. Mm-hmm. They know what they're talking about. But as far as Caliber, I don't really. I never heard of them as go-to knowledge guys for Caliber, so it was a little odd.
Yeah,
but. So, but as far as, to be completely honest with you, I have a feeling that they're probably more professional than Eris and Bibulus would be. So that might be a little bit of a factor. And that's actually something else that I wanted to kind of touch on. Just kind of the professionalism in it. Now, you obviously you were in the tournament, so you didn't get to see a lot of the streaming stuff or what went on with any of the chat, blah blah blah. But one thing that I did want to mention for anybody out there who noticed it, but to me, I really feel like something needs to change with the ads that pop up on streams. Because in professional sports, you have commercial breaks where they let everybody out on the field or the court, whatever. They let them know, hey, we're going to commercial break. Everybody take a quick timeout. Once we're back, we'll start the game up again. Well, in streams, that doesn't happen. So, there were a couple times where, for whatever reason, I had to leave the room or, I had to shut down and reopen my browser. And whenever you do that, the first thing that pops up when you reopen the stream is an ad. So, it could be a super hype moment, and then all of a sudden here comes this fucking ad out of nowhere. And
that sucks.
And every once in a while, even if you've had the stream up, an ad will still pop up, and it seems random, like because it would happen in between matches, and luckily it's just a real quick like 30, 60-second ad, but still, I mean that could cause some big issues if you're in the middle of a hype match and then it cuts out. So that's
I've experienced that before, so I definitely know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that and I take it though, again, you were in the tournament, so I'm guessing that nobody mentioned it or noticed it, but yeah, just something I wanted to throw out there for anybody else, because it'd be nice if people could change that a little bit. But speaking of the commentators, since we were discussing that a little bit, my opinion on this, and I'd like to hear what you have to think, but you mentioned how you would have preferred Eris and Bibulus on the stream for top 8, which I agree with, but in general, for commentary on the stream, I think that it would be really nice to see some of the international players get on there, because I know, like, for example, Keane, she speaks English, so I mean, the translation factor there isn't nearly as big for players like her. But even then, if she's on there and she can translate for a player like Kiev, I think that'd be a really good combo to get them on there. And to be fair, I know a lot of countries don't do that. And, I know a lot of players don't or tournaments, wherever you are, that's usually the players that are going to get on the stream and start talking. But I would think that would be really neat to do that, especially at a big event like that. Do you agree with that? Or do you think, like, maybe, we're in the US of A, fuck them. It should be Americans on the stream.
You know what, though? I would have to agree. I think that would be awesome to have international players on the stream, because they might have a different outlook on what's going on, or it's just something different. So I definitely would have to agree. I would like to see that. I would like to see that happen in maybe a future MLG tournament or another tournament down the road. And if Kayane gets on stream, all the boys are going to love it.
Yep.
So
I was going to say, if you want your numbers to increase, that's how you do it right there. But, even players like, Shining Dekapon or Tokido or any of those guys, I know, 100% know, that there's players there that are Americans or that speak English that can translate into Japanese. Like, for example, Isam. I saw him. Mm-hmm. I know he's there. He speaks Japanese. So, I know that the language barrier, it's definitely there. But I think it would be really neat to see some of that.
Somebody else who speaks surprisingly good English, too, as well, was Cora.
He placed 8, right? I think he was in top 8. Yeah.
Yeah, he was actually around during Matt's and last Evo that Soul Calibur 4 was at. He just had to go to the Army. But yeah, he definitely speaks pretty good English, so he would be a nice candidate to have on the commentary side.
Well, Evo Council, if you're listening, get some international people on the stream. I think everybody would love it. And then one last little thing about the stream that I thought was really crazy. You mentioned Eris and Bibulus; they were really entertaining, and they definitely were. But like drunk people on the stream, seriously, Bibulus, you can't water yourself down a little bit. You got to have a huge thing of liquor there. Drink that stream. And then Eris was crazy. Eris was making fun of random people. It was like, hey, turn the camera over to that person. I want to make fun of that person. Man, that's just crazy. I think it's really funny, and I know a lot of people do, but I was a little surprised that they were kind of letting them do that. It's like, yeah, you're drunk, no problem. Get on the stream and talk to people. We don't care.
You know what, though? Sometimes it's just more fun that way.
Yeah.
For the viewers.
I want to know how Rufus felt, the big dude he was making fun of. It's like, I wonder if he appreciates that he was
see, you make me want to go see the matches now. Like, now I got to see the commentary.
Well, there was, like, in between, they have to talk about something while matches are getting set up, and there's this really big guy who is sitting on the floor, like, eating chips and stuff, watching the big screen, and Eris was just going off on this guy, and it was all playful and fun, and the guy had no idea he was talking about him, but I guess this guy, he dressed up as Rufus last year or something, and he's like, he looks just like him. Like, if he were to cosplay as Rufus, I can completely see it, but I was like, really, you're gonna let Eris just go off like this? Okay, whatever. But it is what it is.
I got to see that.
But, well, I out of curiosity, do you know what they're doing with, like, the stream replays and stuff? Because I know they put up some of the matches, but I didn't see any, like, full stream replays.
Actually, I have no idea, but I did notice, just like you, that some of the matches are up. Actually, they put some of the matches up on finals day, which was very, very interesting. Because usually you have to wait till forever just to see them. But I'm not exactly sure what they're doing with the footage.
Well, if anybody out there knows, definitely post in in the thread for this podcast so we know. But one other thing that's kind of, not to completely derail the stream discussion topic, but one thing that I did want to ask your opinion about, just because Caliber doesn't have a lot of it, but what are your opinion on sponsorships with this tournament? Like players being sponsored, being sent there, because I know like before Evo there was a big issue. There was a player who was sponsored by Brazzers, and for those who don't know, what
was that, Long Island Joe? I think it was.
Yes, it was. Yeah, and for those who maybe are too young or whatever, Brazzers is a porn site. It's a porn company. So you had that. And then one thing that really that made me think about this and wanted to ask about it is because of something I saw over on the MK boards that I was kind of I thought was kind of silly. But before I go into that though, I'll just throw the question to you. I mean, what do you think about it? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing? How do you see the sponsors?
That's a really difficult question.
That's why I asked.
As far as sponsorships from Brazzers go, I would definitely say that's not a good idea. Just because there's all kinds of ages that are actually watching these streams, and the fighting game community is actually starting to blow up now. I feel like that would put a bad image to the community. Like, it would just place a bad image on the community. And it just seems like it would create problems, unnecessary problems. Like, I feel out of all the sponsorships, that one shouldn't even be an option. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe like somewhere down the line in the future after like the fighting game community really, 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 really blows up. But right now I feel like it would just be a negative.
Gotcha. So for you personally, you don't really have a problem with a sponsor like Brazzers, but you think that it'll be more detrimental to the community than helpful?
Yeah, I don't care because I won't get offended by it, and I'm 26 years old. But as far as for the grand scale or the overall scale of sponsorships in the community, I feel like that's just a bad idea.
Gotcha. And then so out of curiosity, where do you think like we've progressed enough to allow certain kinds of I don't want to call them risque, but like adult oriented stuff, like maybe a Budweiser or something? Do you think we're a little ways off from doing that?
Actually, I don't think so. I think Budweiser would be fine. I think that would absolutely be fine. As long as it's not porn, I think we'll be fine. Okay. Because porn is a pretty sensitive topic to quite a few people. It's just one of those controversial things.
Yeah. Gotcha. So when it comes to sponsorships then, do you think that it changes the player? Do you think that it changes their attitude towards the game or anything like that?
I know for some...
Oh, I was going to say, before you answer, I can actually maybe lead you in a little bit. Because the reason that I'm on this topic, like I said, is because of something I saw over on testyourmic.com. And I don't go over there often, but, Perfect Legend, he won the MK tourney. And for those who don't know, he is sponsored. He is a sponsored player. But I think there was someone, and I think it was his sponsorship manager, posted that he was available for interviews during yada yada time frame and, whatever. And it kind of felt like it was like a press conference thing that he was releasing, like, hey, this is our guy, okay. You can talk to him when we think it's best for you to talk to him, that sort of thing. And I thought it was really hilarious, first of all, because he's posting this on an internet forum. It's like, go away, we don't care about your time. And secondly, like, for almost every other community, and maybe this is just a split between MK and everybody else, because of the whole NetherRealms connection and whatnot, but I feel like with Caliber, Tekken, even, Street Fighter and those things, it's a lot easier and more down to earth to get a hold of players. Like, take for instance you're the highest placing US player at Evo, and all it took was a PM. That was it. It just took a PM, and maybe you say no, that's cool. Everyone moves on with their life, but you still respond. You still get that message. So I was like, really, our sponsors like really are they trying to tighten the ropes? Like,
I see what you're trying to say.
So I was just curious, like, if you saw any of that, if you saw like any sort of personality changes, or if you think that's going to be a big issue.
It's pretty strange you say that because I believe Perfect Legend's sponsor is EMP, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, and Empire Arcadia is, not to disrespect anyone or anything, is definitely one of the most controversial sponsors in the gaming community, I believe. And I'm not exactly sure. It's just so hard. It's hard to actually say because I don't want to say the wrong thing. But I would definitely say that probably all other sponsors wouldn't make such a big deal about time slots for you to interview their players and all this nonsense. Unless maybe they were international, you know, because they would just want to have a break or would just want to relax or whatever. But EMP is definitely one of the stranger sponsors in the community. Personally, like, if I was a sponsored player, I wouldn't care. Like, I would just be like, okay, you can interview me, you can ask me whatever questions you like. I do that right now, and it really doesn't bother me, you know, so it really doesn't make a difference for me. As far as attitude goes, I know people like Daigo during, the Super Street Fighter days. At some point, he said that once you became a sponsored player, that you should take everything seriously, and I believe at the time he said he doesn't think you should lose if you were a sponsored player, for lack of the exact quote, but I believe it was something like that. Like, for example, if I was sponsored as well, my attitude would probably change as well. You know, I would want to perform very well for that sponsorship. I wouldn't want to be on the sponsorship team and then all of a sudden start losing, because I notice a lot of people when they get sponsored in the fighting game community, since I follow Marvel, Street Fighter and all that, what happens is they get sponsored and all of a sudden they just start losing, with the exception of Daigo back then. Everyone that got sponsored all of a sudden just started losing matches, which is strange. I don't know if it was too much pressure or, like, I didn't really understand, but I pretty much followed Street Fighter and Marvel, and I noticed that quite often. So, I don't know.
Interesting. Well, you know, I actually think that's kind of a good segue into my the last topic I have that regards Evo. And I think this is the question I'm about to bring up. I think it's really important to get out there and discuss, because a lot of people kind of allude to it, but no one really discusses it. And it has to do with the salt, you know, that inevitably comes after a tournament like this. And I think there's a big misunderstanding between players, especially newer players, about how being the best actually works in an instance like this. And I mean, correct, you know, obviously I want to get your opinion on this and your thoughts, but to me the reality is the best player at that moment, that day, won, and that's how it goes. And, you know, people don't really acknowledge the fact that all professional sports, you know, it gets to a point where you realize that everyone is so close in skill level that no one player, no one team, whatever it is, that they're never going to win and never lose. And that's why you have seasons, that's why you have playoffs, that's why you have all these sorts of things. But every time, and you can go back to the Evo update thread and all the other threads and whatnot, like everyone, right when the tournament's over, oh my God, best player didn't win, blah, 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 blah. Like, seriously, like, I really think that people need to move on from this, because there is never ever, even with Daigo has lost his seat as the undisputable best SF player, you know, for the time frame. Like, there was a time where maybe you could make that argument, but you can't even do that anymore now. So I think people need to just recognize that we are getting so big and players are getting so good that there's very, very little discrepancy between, you know, top 8, top 32, top 64, whatever it is, depending on how big the tournament is.
I would definitely like to input on that.
Yes, please. So, so as a final, to kind of sum up, you know, TLDR, you know, I just think that people should shut up with that garbage and give the winner some respect. But yes, I'm going to throw it right at you. I want to know what your opinion on this.
Okay, right. There definitely is some sense to the best player or the number one player on that particular day. There's definitely some sense to consistency. Like, for example, you mentioned Daigo. At one point in time, the guy was just undisputably unmatched. Like, no one could really beat him at that point in time. You know, he was like the best for 2 years, I think, give or take.
Yeah.
He was consistent at all the Evo majors and Evo itself. Now, today, he seems to be losing pretty much just like a normal average top 8 player.
Yeah.
You know? So you could definitely make an argument. I definitely think that if someone's consistent, though, that people should take notice. Because although some people might just be better than others on that particular day, I feel like if a player is consistent, you definitely have to take notice. Which is interesting, going back to Soul Calibur 5, is that the top 8 players, give or take, for Soul Calibur 5 have all been all over the place. Literally, they've been like in the top 8, but we've been either like 5th or 4th or 3rd or 2nd or something like that. Like, speaking about the U.S. in particular, we've been 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th, or 6th, 7th, 8th, or whatever, and the spot usually switches per tournament, give or take. And it seems, you know, I don't really want to say this, but so far, only give or take Kiev, I believe, from France, has the most consistent record. I believe he's won both MLG championships. He's won most the tournaments in his own country. He's just been an all-around consistent player, despite the fact that he didn't place in Evo. You know what I'm saying? I feel like he shouldn't be forgotten, because I definitely feel like his consistency makes him arguably the #1 guy for France, for example, you know? And then you have like Decapon in Japan, who's arguably, I mean, who's pretty much the best Japanese player. You know, that's what I heard before he got here. Anyway, but he wins whatever he plays out there the majority of the time. So I definitely feel like that consistency makes those two like the best of the nation in particular, or whatever, at that point in time. And it can change down the road, you know. But for now, I feel like if you were to ask me a question of who is the best in those two nations, I would probably drop those two names. But I would say that the skill gap isn't that big. Now, the U.S. for Soul Calibur 5 is very, very interesting because, personally, I just want to get this out the way. I don't actually, like, when I do placements and things like that, and I consider all the people who are the best, I don't count locals. You know, like things like locals, little man gatherings, and stuff like that, that doesn't factor into, the best players.
So when you're looking at record, you're just looking at majors and stuff like that.
Yeah, majors, like major events or events with international players or high numbers. Like, to me, locals aren't exactly a test of strength. It's really not, because what happens is quite often, and this has been for years in multiple fighting games, you get the best local player in one scene and the best local player in the other scene, the best local player in that scene, and then you pit them all together at a major or majors, and 10 times out of 10, that player never wins or never performs well in that environment. And I find that happens quite often. So for me, locals aren't, it's not enough. How do I word it? It's just not enough. It's not relevant. It's not significant enough to factor that into like placement.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And I think most players, at least top players, would tell you that. And even if they've won a bunch of locals, they'll tell you, well, you know, it was a local. You know, it wasn't much. You know, I didn't win the big tournament, so. Take it. Well,
I mean, there's always a way to counteract that. For example, if that player wins all his locals and then proceeds to go to majors and then wins all the majors, then, you know, what can you say? You know, you can only say, damn, that guy is good, you know? That's just, like, one of the best. Yeah. And going back a little bit the U.S., like, players like myself, RTD, LP, Hawkeye, Link, I feel like I'm missing 2 or so. You got Kinetic Clash, you got Wing Zero, Region, right? I believe those were like the MLG players or whatever. And then and then you have Evo, the American places like myself, like me, Wolves, and Zephyrkai and Evo. I feel like if you mashed all these people up, this is why I like MLG. I feel like whenever you mash all these people up, right, the results mostly come out the same, or like the same top 8 people, give or take, but you'll never be able to tell which one goes where. Mm-hmm. And sadly, it seems that none of us, I guess without the exception of Hawkeye, who happened to win that, what was it called? The MLG.
The invitational thing.
Yeah, the first MLG arena or whatever. With the exception of that, no American has really been able thus far to snatch up that first. Kyiv seems to just love to come to our country, take our money, and then leave, which sucks. So if you asked me who the top players in the U.S. are, I would be like, I would just throw you a bag of names, like some of the names I just mentioned, and just leave it there. And I couldn't give you one. I couldn't give you one because so far there seems to be no consistency with any of the U.S. players in terms of actually taking titles,
Gotcha. No, I completely agree with most of that, and that's actually kind of the point. The reason that I brought this up, because like after a tournament, especially the tournament like Evo, like the first thing that happens is you have all these apologizers coming out of nowhere, like he isn't the best player, he is. And this is why, because of X, Y, and Z. And I just don't really like that argument. Like, I know there's always going to, just like with any professional sport or anything, you're always going to have people debating, who's number one. But, at some point, your record gets reset after a season or whatever it may be. In this particular case, after Evo, everyone's slate gets wiped clean. But I really hate it when players, especially newer players, kind of take that attitude. It's like you can't look at it that way. It's like there's a lot of players that are really good, and there's some that are more consistent than others. You mentioned Kyiv, Shining Dekapon, and a couple other foreign players that you could put in that mix. But, for the most part, just like Evo proved to us, you mentioned, a few other really big U.S. names who didn't even break top 8, who were expected to do really well. And it's not, and, I actually posted this up when I did the top 8 update, but, I put a little piece in there that said, even though Kyiv and Kayane or any number of other players, even though they didn't make top 8, that doesn't mean that they aren't good or that they weren't prepared.
Exactly.
It's just a set circumstance. Some they played, they did their best, and a lot of those matches, for anybody who was watching the stream, a lot of those matches were really close. It's not like somebody just got blown out.
Well, to interrupt for a second, and it's not an ego trip, me and Zephyrkai at Evo were the only 2 players prior to actually Zephyrkai more than me, were the only 2 players that actually went through everybody convincingly, 2-0.
Yes, okay, yes. I mean, there were those matches out there, but like if you look at Kyiv's losses, for instance, both to the same player, a top 8 player, but both of those matches were really, really close. I mean, they were super nail-biters, so.
Are you talking about the one with him and Korra?
Yeah, yep. So I mean,
those were really, really good.
Those were intense. So I mean, I just want for newer players who may not be used to the tournament atmosphere or anything like that. They let these kinds of results sink in, and then they start letting their biases sink in. And they start interpreting it different ways and try to make those arguments.
It's funny you say that because not too recently, I'm not even going to mention the guy's name. There was somebody on the forums who said that he wasn't impressed with me, but I don't know if you saw it.
It depends, because I saw a lot of salt and a lot of trash talk going on.
Yeah. So he said he wasn't impressed with me simply because of the fact that I picked Pyrrha and it's poke, 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 poke. And I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm not even going to respond to that one. And then 2, it's like, like what kind of, like, I don't understand the mentality. It's one thing to say, because I'm gonna be honest with you, Pyrrha's not exactly the most exciting character to watch, but I feel like some people just make absolutely no sense. Like, it's not about the actual character. Like, I feel like that's what most players are missing. It's about the metagame and the mind games that go on in the match and the control that you have while you're playing, And I feel like some people, they just resort to the most retarded, stupid, biased things they could possibly come up with. And when I saw that, I was just like, oh my God, this guy's an idiot, But I'm not gonna say his name. I'm just gonna leave that alone and say whatever. But I do want to say one more thing about, as far as consistency and stuff goes. I feel like Evo is definitely, arguably, one of, if not the most important way to grade players, or the tournament, simply, but it's not the be all end all. It doesn't mean this player is the best, because like we was talking about before, how it could just be that player on that day. But I feel like Evo, with almost, I can't remember how much players we had. I know Mateo during the tournament said it was actually like 490, even though it said 416 before Evo. I feel like with 490 players, give or take, however you want to put it, over 400 players, between 400 and 500 players, I guess that's the best way to put it, right? And you have international players everywhere. You don't get international players quite often. And I believe there were like 10 Japanese players and like 8 Singapore players or something like that. And it's funny because the first match I actually had in my pool, the guy happens to be from Italy. I don't know who he was, but yeah, he was from Italy.
Well, I know Belial, he came over from Russia, so.
Yeah, you got Belial, Russia, you got Kayane, Kiev, and Malik, France. I feel like it's just a different level of competition. Like, there's just so many arguments you can make for it. There's international players, the numbers are ridiculous, the pot money is high, which is interesting because it turns out the pot money was probably $10,000 and Namco didn't say anything about it. Even because everybody thought it was $5,000, because I got $1,000 for third place, Shen got $3,000 for second, and I believe Decapon got like $5,000, and I can't remember exactly how much fifth and seventh and stuff go, but it kind of adds up to $10,000, which was very, very surprising.
Yeah, I thought I heard before the event that Namco was gonna, whatever the pot was, that they were gonna double it. So you figure 500 players, give or take, so you have about 5,000 in your pot pool. So yeah, that makes sense a little bit, but
yeah. So I mean, my main point is just to cut this whole thing short. This particular topic is that Evo, I definitely feel, needs to be regarded as the number one tournament until the next season starts, because that's essentially what you train up for. You get prepared when you go to Evo. You're like, damn, I want to win this tournament more than anything else, because it's going to be tough. And all the people, they got the highest viewers and all that. All the people are going to remember the people that won or was at the top until the next time, And all the tournaments, usually the tournaments like right after Evo, they kind of like fall in the shadows, because you still have the lingering Evo effect. Like, that tournament was so big that the next one is kind of just like and it usually takes maybe about 2 tournaments or so before people finally start getting back into all right, here we go, we got a competition all over again.
Yeah.
So it's just, I do want to say that Evo, anybody that wins Evo or plays really well at Evo, that is just super, super well deserved. Because I mean, Street Fighter had 1,500 players?
Yeah, it was something big. It was something ridiculous, that's for sure. I don't know how they even get through those brackets. So many players, but
it's crazy. Marvel 1,200, KOF 1,000, Soul Calibur. I mean, like 500. Like, when have you ever heard Soul Calibur having like 400 to 500 players? That's as good as it can get. That's phenomenal.
Well, we can only expect it to get better, hopefully. But But with that, I actually only have a couple questions left, or possibly some of the most controversial stuff. But to kind of ease into it a little bit, my last couple questions have to do with Soul Calibur specifically. So the first thing that I want to talk about is actually, so you kind of opened the door for it a little bit. You said metagame. So I do want to talk about that just a little bit. Because I saw somebody post on the forums that I found really interesting, that it was a comment about how the game has shifted to a more speedy, aggressive play style, where we're seeing a lot of rewards coming from situations of disadvantage. And I actually disagree with that a little bit. I do agree that that's where the metagame is right now. But I actually disagree that this is a change, because I thought it was prevalent from day one, and I thought it became even more so once the patch hit and, stuff like the backdash got nerfed. So I want to know what your opinion is on it, because I've always seen the metagame as a more speedy, aggressive style just from day one, right when it hit. And it seems a little it's weird to me that somebody would have seen it as a more defensive style. Like, if anything were to change, I would actually expect a change from aggression to defense. So I want to know if you saw that same shift as this other person did, or what your opinion is.
I actually agree with you. I came out, it was more towards an aggressive playstyle, and I feel like post-patch didn't really change that. It's still more of an aggressive playstyle. The only thing is that post-patch, what happened... this is such a controversial one. Post-patch, what happened is turtle players like myself and RTD and pretty much the extreme ones, because everybody thinks I'm extreme. The extreme ones, which is pretty much ATL, they just love the turtle.
That's true.
It completely destroyed our game, because the best games aren't forcing one style of play over another. It's being able to accommodate multiple play styles while not having anyone in particular more abusive than the other. I guess that's the best way I can put it for now. And essentially what happened is when the patch hit, people like me and RTD and Wing Zero in particular and stuff, we had to start over. We had to start from scratch. And we did have to put a little more aggression in our game. Because you can't, it just seems like in any direction you move, you're liable to get smacked by anything. Because I noticed, because not for nothing, you said something about how, I can't remember how you said it, but you said attacking during negative and things like that?
Yeah, in disadvantage, yeah. Because I know that was a lot of what people were noticing from Shining Decapon, is he was getting a lot of rewards by saying, fuck your disadvantage, I'm attacking anyway. So. And
the truth is, it has some truth to it. It's pretty effective, because post-patch, I find it's so irritating when someone does, let's say, something that puts them at -8, and then throws out a 3B right after it and hits you with it because you tried to move, either backwards, because it's not always wise to attack. If someone does a move that puts them in negative, the smartest thing isn't always to attack right after just because you're now at positive frames, because you have the GI in the mix. Somebody might be setting you up to GI you because they expect you to retaliate immediately since they're at negative, and they still have the window, they still have the frames active to GI or auto GI, or perhaps do a jump attack or some kind of attack that has stupid Viola, A plus V, which is unsafe, but it tech jumps lows, it tech crouches highs, and catches back stuff. And the thing with this game is that moves that shouldn't track, verticals that shouldn't track, quite often track sometimes. So you got a move that pretty much catches you in 4 different scenarios, and you can just throw it out after you throw out something negative, because you don't always want to attack. And that's where stuff that Decapon was doing, or someone throwing out a 3B at -8 actually become a problem. Or it's not, I won't say a problem, but it becomes effective. The game starts tailoring towards that style of play. You know, because you can't really move. So your best option there is, if you're not going to attack back or throw back, your best option is probably to just block. You know, and probably play like a counter hit hunting game. You know, like for example, when I play Maxi, a lot of people say I use 6A plus B like crazy, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the mid check crouching move that has the Brave Edge attached to it. Most people don't understand that the reason why I use that move so much is because I think of it as a BB. To me, essentially, it's a BB, because Maxi's BB sucks. So it's like a replacement. I'm going to go to that move because, to me, in my eyes, it's a BB. You know, I'm going to substitute it for a BB. All in all, I don't think the game has changed much, but there's definitely some things to say that because of the backdash nerf, and you get hit in any direction now, mm-hmm. that you can get away with more throwing stuff out at negative frames. Mm-hmm. You know, it's simply viable. And the biggest, most annoying character that does that is Mitsurugi.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, his moves are like -2 and stuff like that, and they frame trap into itself. Like, it's so frustrating having someone throw out like 3 BBs or 2 BBs in a row, because you know if you attack immediately, you might get hit with a 4B that tracks in like every direction, unless you're holding either 8 or 2. If you're not holding 8 or 2, if you try to just like do a clean step, you will get smacked by it because it retracts. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's just annoying. You can just throw a lot of stuff out at negative, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, you know? That's interesting to hear you say that, because, you know, like I said, when I first originally saw that comment, I was a little, you know, taken aback. I was like, really? You think it's suddenly changed to aggressive? But you know, it's yeah, I did want to, you know, from a top player, I wanted to hear about that, see if, you know, maybe there was something I wasn't seeing, or whatever it may be. So one last kind of big topic question, and you know, save the best for last, so to speak. So now that EVO's over, and for those who have been, you know, looking on the front page, I'm sure you've seen by now Jaxel's post about you know, the rule set changes, post EVO rule set changes, and I mean, there's so much controversy and salt over how this thing is going down. So obviously the main topic of discussion when it comes to this is infinites, and as it specifically pertains to Viola, like that's the one that started the whole thing. But I think it also happens to, you know, be a microcosm of the whole balance discussion. So that, you know, I'm not surprised at all, and I will say this to everybody out there: I fucking told you so. Like, I said it a bunch of times on the Evo update thread. I was like, listen, I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just saying, prepare yourself for the controversy that's going to happen if somebody tries to ban this. So I just want to tell you that I am the best. I know I can see into the future. So with that being said, to set up the situation for those who maybe aren't paying attention for some reason, the two sides seem to be as follows. So infinites, you have the one side that says infinites are cheese and are inherently an imbalance. Therefore, you know, the game, they're inherently cheese and an imbalance and blah, 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 blah. And while the other side says that, you know, a Viola didn't win EVO and none of these infinites are popping up, blah, 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 so that proves that they're not busted. So personally, and, you know, I'll start out with my opinion, then I'll throw it over to you. I think the infinite itself doesn't bother me too much, because even though Viola's is a little bit more easier to throw into your match, you know, most, with the exception of that one, they're all very situational. And in my eyes, I really don't. They might be really good, but I don't see them as incredibly overpowered, for the simple fact that you don't see them getting abused in tournaments. And I know a lot of people are making the argument, well, you know, you're not seeing them in tournaments yet because nobody's tried to do them or no one's tried to practice them. I really don't think that's the case. Like with Viola, I mean, Tokido, and I said this on the boards, you know, Tokido is such a good player that if that infinite was so busted, I just don't see him not making top 8. Like, if it was so good, he is such a good player, I don't see him not abusing that and getting in. So, but my concern with the whole thing is this. I really don't like the, and this is not to completely contradict what I just said, but a lot of people are making this that exact argument where this character didn't win, so obviously they're not busted. And a lot of people have that same opinion. They throw up the Soul Calibur 4 example where, Hilda didn't win Evo, but at the same time, a lot of people thought that she was overpowered. So
yeah.
So with that, I want to kind of throw it over to you. Personally, I think that when you start banning stuff, you're walking a very, very fine line, and you're getting into a gray area that's really hard to control. So, like I warned everybody, we have to be careful if we start banning stuff. But what do you think about this whole thing? Do you think it's okay? Does it water down the game any with the balance or with the ban? And do you think the game, and this is kind of a big picture question, but do you think the game is balanced with or without it?
All right. The game, I would definitely say, I used to think that it wasn't as balanced post-patch, which might still be true because some characters were affected by the actual backdash nerf and others weren't. So I can't really say how much that of an impact that had on the balance of the game. But anyway, I do feel like the game is balanced enough that essentially almost any character can win a tournament, except for, I guess, you could probably, because there's always, like 4 or 5 characters on the bottom that just, like, have no hope or, like, have the hardest road to go in order to win or whatever. I do feel like Viola's Infinite is not broken. Broken. It's definitely cheap and definitely infuriating when you get caught by it. Because I was actually a victim of it myself, playing some casuals with Taquito. It's super, super annoying. But in my eyes, there's nothing broken about it. One, because it's not. You can't just go to it. It's not like, let's say APAT, you hit someone with a 3-3B or 1BB, and you lead into like 100 damage or whatever, 100 to 120 damage, or a Tira Gloomy 3B leads into pretty much the same thing for like a natural hit. You have to set up her back throw. Like, you literally have to set it up. There's only one situation where it's just pretty stupid, where you can just land it, which is, I believe LP mentioned this, and it was in the Partisan vid. I think he hit him with it like once. No, not the CE, because, okay, before I even get to that, I'm going to stay with the CE. The CE, you can only get the back throw if you hit someone with the CE. So that means that if you got hit with the CE in the first place, that means your opponent had already opened you up, right? Yep. They already got you to make a mistake and land that hit on you, because, to be honest, that CE is arguably one of the most things to block. It has the most pressure after you block it, because she gets the low mix-up or the throw or the mid or whatever. But you can still duck. Like, you can duck or all that when you block it. So that back throw setup is not guaranteed. And in order to even be able to walk around the person in the first place, you would have to have caught your opponent at a specific range with the actual ball. Because you need to get over there and then walk around them. Damn, I totally lost my train of thought.
The LP situation that you were talking about.
Okay, yeah. The 4-4 Brave Edge. When it catches you side turned, it makes the opponent go back turned. So if you hit someone with 4-4 Brave Edge, you automatically you can get a free throw. You get I won't necessarily say free, because I'm not exactly too sure, but since it puts you side turned, it's very, very easy to get a back throw. And Taquito actually did that to Partisan in the example vid in the actual thread itself. Mm-hmm. But the throw is not immediate. You have to set up the throw. It's very, very situational. It does next to no damage. It's mostly just to piss someone off, like literally. And it gets kind of dirty, like if you bring someone to a ring out edge, like if there's a ring out or whatever, and you're able to actually pull it off like Taquito, it can get kind of retarded. But you don't get the serious meter gain that you would off of other moves. You have to set it up. It's just not. It's just not one of those moves, one of those situations that you have to worry about all the time. You know? And if you didn't get hit by anything, like if you blocked the C or whatever, you have options to prevent it, you know, the mix-up. Like, it's not guaranteed, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know?
A lot of what you're saying mirrors like my whole interpretation of the thing, because a lot of people are saying, well, no, because some people have mentioned, well, it's no different than a ring out. Ring out's a one-hit kill, and other people are like, well, no, it's different, blah blah blah. And my whole opinion on it is, I really don't see it as anything other than a death combo, where just like a ring out, where sure it can kill you, but at the same time, like you mentioned, at some point you have to open yourself up to it. Like, you have to eat it. So I see it as the same way as a ring out. Like, you put yourself in that bad situation. If it happens, that sucks. I feel for you. But, it's not – I don't feel like it breaks the game.
Yeah, exactly. And to go back to the Partisan the video that they use as an example, I mean, I love Partisan, man. He's an exceptional player and he's a very humble guy. But in that video, I guess everybody is thinking, well, damn, that shit is cheap, because that phenomenon to throw is cheap. It's like really, really annoying. It's cheap, but it's not broken. It's not ban-worthy. But Partisan actually put himself in those numerous situations. Like, I can't think of anyone else that's gotten back grabbed so much by Taquito in a first a first to three, right? I mean, a best of three.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because that was a
best of three. And, and he ate that so much that essentially it gets to a point where it's like, okay, well, why you not blocking? Like, you got hit with that. That's your fault that many times. If it happened like once or whatever, it wouldn't be an issue. But he just happened to get caught by it a lot. And I've played Taquito at Anaheim, and I've gotten caught by it. Link has gotten caught by it. Kiev has gotten caught by it. And it's not enough to give you the victory. It's just not enough to give you the win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've seen people like Link and Kiev get spammed by it in tournament and still come out winning.
Yeah, no, and that's that's part of my evidence for the argument against it. And I do want to clarify, at least for myself, I don't like it. I don't think it's neat. I don't think it's funny. I think it's really stupid and cheesy and shouldn't be in the game. But at the same time, I don't think it's something that makes the game unplayable. And, you have had those situations with other games where something is just so overpowered, you have to get rid of it. Either you get rid of it or no one's going to want to play. But the fact that you have so many people who are on one side of the fence and the other tells me that if this stays in the game, people are still going to play. I mean, no one's going to walk away.
Exactly. So. And you know what? Not for nothing. That argument that people use about it looks stupid, makes the game look stupid, and people not going to want to play is 10 times out of 10 bullshit. Yeah. It's just. I feel like people are just pulling that out of their ass. Like, they're just pulling out of thin air just to say it, because it's been in the game for a while now. Mm-hmm. Taquito's roughly the only player that's been pulling it off. I think. Pretty much the only player that's been pulling it off since he's been pulling off in tournaments.
And I think he's the only one that really cares about going for it, which again, it's the thing where even Viola players are like, you can go for it if you want to, but it's not going to get you any farther than playing the way I play. So
exactly. And for those people that don't know who Taquito is, if you're only a Soul Calibur player, he's arguably one of the most cheapest players in the fighting game community.
So
he goes to the cheapest thing you can find in any game, and he runs with it. And he's just he has really, really, really good fundamentals. Like, you can, as soon as you sit down and play the guy, you can just feel the fundamentals from all the games that he plays, And he can't even necessarily, he didn't make top 8 at Evo, right?
No, he did not.
He didn't make top 8 at Anaheim with it either. And he pulled it off on quite a few people. Yeah. I remember he pulled it off on Link. Like, he literally took him from one side of the screen to the other with it, and then messed it up and lost the whole round. Like, it was just so funny. But it's not it's not ban-worthy. It's not broken. It's just simply really, really annoying.
Yeah.
Like, when I get hit by it, I'm pissed off. But I cannot agree with a ban or saying it's broken or unbalanced until you start dominating with it. You just, there's like no domination with it. Like, you can't guarantee a win just because she can do that move, because you have to set it up and it's situational.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, for everyone out there who's arguing about it, I really don't think that we're going to have to worry about it for much longer anyway. I really think Namco is going to patch it out. So, I mean, maybe they won't. Who knows? But I mean, I can't see them so many people don't like that I can't see them keeping that in there and not patching it out, especially after Evo. But
yeah.
You know, it is what it is, I guess. You know, people are going to do their thing, and you know, they don't like a character, they don't like something, and you know, it is what it is.
One of my main things though with the issue is that Soul Calibur 5 is pretty big now. You know, you got Japan playing it. Actually, yeah, I wanted to say this just so everybody can hear this. You know, Itabashi Zangief, right? Mm-hmm. He's a Street Fighter Zangief player, right? Mm-hmm. We were in the Evo room, we were in Mystic Bill and Mateo's room, and we were playing casuals with the Japanese, we were side betting on matches. We had this thing, right, that me and Mateo and LP, we kind of started it at MLG Columbus, where we put like high profile people in the chairs, and we all bet money on the side. That was a little bit of gambling that I did in Vegas. That's like how I made my money. Yeah. Like, I literally went up $90 and then lost 80 of it, and only left for like $10. I was so pissed off.
The house always wins, man.
Always wins. You know, and I made quite a few people some money doing that too. Like, they sat down, they bet on me. I think I made Baines and Denver quite a few bucks. But anyway, damn, what was I trying to say?
Something about Zangief.
Oh yeah, okay. Itabashi Zangief, yeah. He said the words that came out his mouth was that he stopped playing Street Fighter for Soul Calibur 5.
Oh wow.
Like, literally. And Itabashi Zangief is a very well-known, I think, Virtua Fighter player as well, and a Street Fighter player, because he plays third. Yeah, he plays third at Virtua Fighter 5 at EVO for that $15,000 pot or whatever it was. Fudo was the one who won. I forgot who got second. But when I heard those words come out of his mouth, like, I was in absolute shock. You know what I'm saying? I was, like, surprised to hear someone say that. And the guys, they love the game. The Japanese people, they really, really love the game. They were streaming our matches to Japan on their phone. I don't know how their phone was able to do that or whatever, but they were streaming our matches to Japan on their phone while we were playing. Some of them speak pretty good English. One guy, I actually felt so happy because I believe he was the APAC player, the one that eliminated Hawkeye from his pool. He said that he was happy to meet me or whatever, and I taught him so much, because I literally sat down and I played like 10 games with him with like a bunch of different characters. And I was just in shock to hear that. Like, these guys, they love the environment, they loved being there, they love the game. And then you got people like Itabashi Zangief that say he quit Street Fighter for Soul Calibur. Like, to me, that's just phenomenal. And I feel like now we finally have this unity, you know, this large unity between France and us and Japan and Singapore. And I feel like we don't need to divide stupid personal ban rules on one side of the country when we have this unity. If it needs to be patched out, just let Namco patch it out. You know, let them patch it out. The annoying back throw, it's not ruining the game because people are still playing it. The Violas aren't winning. And not for nothing, I feel like, me personally, I feel like Viola is borderline broken as it is. Not broken, so people don't mix it up, but borderline broken. She's just all around an unfair character. Like, and it's funny because I'm going to contradict myself because I don't think she's actually the best. But she just has so much broken nonsense, it's not even funny. You know, like 4-4-A leading to Half-Life leads to ring outs from damn near the other side of the screen. Same thing with 3...
before they even did the patch and whatnot, as soon as, like, day one, we were fucking around with the characters, and, you know, everybody's going to go to the brand new character. So we were like, okay, let's check out this chick with the orb. And I was like, that move is dumb. That move hits 20 times, and it tracks 360. That thing is retarded. And it's mid. I was like, no, that move is going to be retarded at some point.
And then she has the other option, 3B, which is only, what, -14. There's only, like, 4 characters in the game, give or take, that can hard punish it. Like, everyone else just has to probably get, like, a poke at best. And it tech crouches, what, highs? And it leads, like, half damage, and it leads to the same potential ring outs that 448 does. You know, she has the ball pressure. Like, if you don't have an auto GI... Like, if your character's not, like, Pero or whatever, you don't have an auto GI, her pressure is freaking annoying for her to have that kind of damage. Because most people, when they get the opportunity to set you up or press you, that's it. They get that one opportunity. If you don't do nothing with it, you know, you have to continue the mind games to get back in there. Like, Viola, she has probably, like, 2 or 3 shots because of the ball mix-up. You know, following you right in the back. Like, she just has so much pressure, so much damage, such high ring-out capacity, and the game with the, you know, you step backwards or you step left, you step right, and you can't guard for, what, like 20-something frames? She has, her moves, it just benefits the engine. And then she has moves like AA plus B that tech crouch, tech jump, catch backstep, and catch one direction stepping. And sometimes if you step it, you might end up getting smacked by the ball anyway. You know, it's just, the character's just so, I don't know, just so unfair. Like, but I don't think, my thing is just nothing ban-worthy, to put it simple. There's nothing ban-worthy about the character.
She's just really, really strong. And I don't think that there's anything inherently unfair. You know, I know you use the term unfair, but I mean, there's nothing that makes her so unfair against, you know, for other characters. So. But
because think about it, other characters got to use a move plus maybe a whole bar or half a meter to get the kind of damage this girl can get from like 3 different moves with no meter. You know what I'm saying? With no meter, and then it's even worse with meter. Like, she's just a stupid character. I'm sorry.
Well, I think we've beat that character to death. And with all the mini rants that we're doing, you know, I usually have a little segment at the end where I let you kind of rant, but I think we've kind of taken care of that. So rather than doing that question, my final, like, interview style question. I'm just going to kind of throw this out there since you were just talking about Unity and all this other stuff. Where do you see Soul Calibur 5 going from here?
Oh, man.
And do you think that it's just going to stay steady and we'll get the same numbers next year for EVO? Do you think it'll grow or do you think it'll shrink?
That's a very, very tough one. Because, one, naturally, any game shrinks, you know? Mm-hmm. The longer it stays out, you get less players.
Unless you're Street Fighter, inexplicably.
Yeah, unless you're Street Fighter, yeah. So you already have that going against it, you know? But I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe last year's EVO for Street Fighter had 1,700 people. I don't know if it didn't have as much because they had to have a cap. I'm not sure, but Street Fighter also did have more people, and it did have more people at locals as well. Like, it actually starting to have less people now. It just has so much people that you don't notice it. But anyway, forget that. Soul Calibur 5, it's hard to say because with the exception of EVO, tournaments wasn't looking too pretty. In terms of, with the exception of CEO and Final Round, which are arguably the 2 biggest majors other than EVO, well, MLG is good too, but I feel like MLG, the turnout for MLG could be higher. I definitely feel like that's the only relevant tournament as far as numbers go. That's left. I don't.
And you have to figure that the money that they put out for the payouts and stuff, it has to factor into that. I mean, you'd think that more people would show up just for that alone. But
that's what I don't understand either. Like, they have such big pots. They have promise for the game. The game gets the arenas. The game gets the money. And, you know, I don't understand.
To be honest with you, I think the whole MLG issue I think it stems a lot from the fact that they haven't had the best relationship with the fighting game community. I mean, there's been some big missteps in the past, regardless of anyone's, individual opinion on MLG. A lot of people like it. Some people have had some negative experiences, but like, there's just been issues in the past with it. That I think there's a lot of fighting gamers that are like, we'll take care of it. We don't need your corporate nonsense to step into our game. Whereas, StarCraft, they're more a game like StarCraft, they're more used to big like organizations and companies coming in and saying, hey, we're going to run this league, blah, blah, blah. They're used to that sort of thing. Fighting gamers they're a little cold to it. They like the open tournaments and run by gamers and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
I think that has a little bit to do with it. But.
And it might also be like the actual entry fee itself. It's like $50.
That's true.
To enter. But, man, I don't know. I'll never be able to figure it out. I just hope that down the line more people do show up for it. Because if you show up for it, they'll keep you. They'll be like one of the only tournaments that'll keep you, and they'll always have the payout. The higher the number, as long as you bring the numbers, they'll have the money. Like, for example, we have MLG Relay coming up, right? I guarantee you, I'm not too sure on the specifics yet, but I would argue that the pot will no longer be, what was it, $16,000?
Yeah, it was something big. It was bigger than EVO.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. It's probably going to drop down to like 10,000 or something now. I'm not sure the exact number because Mortal Kombat also took a hit before, even though it still had the pot because, they have Warner Brothers behind them. Yeah. They also took a hit in terms of the pot and players as well, which is it's mind-boggling to me. I just don't understand it, and I probably never will, and what you said probably makes sense, and that's probably the reasoning for it. I just hope that more people do show up, and as far as the EVO circuit goes, the next EVO circuit, I honestly, I don't know what Soul Calibur would look like. I imagine, though, that the next final round would be big, and the next CEO would be big because they're the biggest non-EVO majors.
Well, I mean, the numbers for this last EVO pretty much guarantee that they'll at least give Soul Calibur a shot next year. So, I mean, at least you'll see it at EVO. I mean, that's like a 99% guarantee. I mean, I know Tag 2 is coming out, but there's really... I mean, you had VF, which brings in some of the international players and whatnot, but compared to how many 2Ds are out there, there's not a lot of 3Ds out there. So, and, EVO has liked to include 3D games. So, if nothing else, at least we can expect it for EVO next year, which automatically means that it's going to be at some other big tournaments too.
I hope so, because I definitely understand why everybody says if you go to any tournament, go to EVO, because I'm definitely up in there next year if they got it. I'll probably be up in there anyway because I'm picking up Mortal Kombat, and I'm going to start re-picking up Marvel and all that. I don't know how some people play all these games like Justin Long. I can only probably do like 2-3 tops.
Yeah, I can't understand it either. But you know what? He's slipping a little bit. Like, he wins tournaments here and there, but he's not taking EVOs. So,
that was surprising. Yeah. And it's crazy too because he was beating people that he's like never really beaten, like the international Japanese players. He was just taking them out one by one, and then it just came to an end.
Yeah, Well, that's how it happens. You have a good run, and then it just kind of hits that wall. But I missed out on this last EVO just because timing. I didn't really have a huge incentive to go, and to be completely honest, I would have only gone for Calibur, and with it being on the 4th of July weekend, I just really didn't want to deal with that. So, but next year for sure, not only for Calibur, but I'm a big Tekken guy, so I will be up in that tag too. But
glad to hear it.
Other than that though, that's it for me for the question. So I always like to give the little last bit of our podcast to my guests and kind of give you just a moment to say whatever you want to say, shout outs, or if you have any comments or you want to get something out there. So I'll throw it out to you to kind of end the segment. So just whatever you want to say.
First and foremost, I definitely have to shout out LP, RTD, and Mystic Bill, because I definitely wouldn't have made it out there if it wasn't for LP or RTD. That's for sure. I definitely would have made it out there. And Bill for offering to house me, knowing that I was going out there on life support, despite the fact that I didn't even stay there. Yeah, so I got to give shout outs to them. I definitely want to give shout outs to Singapore, because they actually cheered me on during the top 8 finals, even though I'm not from their country. I want to say shout outs to NorCal and all those people. Like, it's always, people really need to understand this. The tournament, despite the fact that some people like myself or whatever might come off as a bit of a jerk online or whatever, on the forums or whatever, when you meet people in person and you chill with them in person, it's always a fun experience. Like, and I feel like everybody should experience that. I had a blast with everybody, and I'm still gonna write up my shout outs, but I just want to say shout outs to everybody. I thought I had a really great time. Thanks to the community itself.
Excellent. Yes, Evo, you know, it's bringing us all together. That's how it goes. So,
one last thing.
Go for it.
Because I heard the podcast, the one that you had with Rose. Uh-huh. And I just wanted to say, Rose, fuck you. Your style pisses me off too, all right? And, yeah, I'm going to leave on that note.
Well, hey, you guys are neck and neck, you know, third and fourth, so I guess it's only right.
I know people want to see us play, though, because we live, like, pretty much right in the area. We can just both go to the Jackson Dome or whatever and play it out, because the way we actually play each other in this game is pretty interesting. So, nice. I don't know.
Is that all you got? Any other things you want to add before we call it day?
Oh, thanks for this podcast. You know, there's a lot of things that I definitely wanted to get off my mind that you gave me the opportunity to.
I always love, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to start this podcast, because I know not only do people want to just, you know, hear some of the top players and just, you know, hear their voices and opinions and whatnot, but I know a lot of people just love hearing, you know, the controversial comments and and just getting a background and being like, oh, what does this person really think about the community and all this other stuff. So it's always a pleasure to have you guys on and just listen to you rant.
Yeah, definitely. Not for nothing, I listen to all the other podcasts secretly.
You're like,
I listen to
I need to know.
Yeah. I listen to the Eaton one. I listen to the Louis Providence one. Like, when at the time, I just turn it on and listen. You know, I don't see why not. I like hearing other people's opinions about the game, how they feel, all that good stuff. You know, I feel like I'm getting a little bit too mushy here, so I gotta relax that.
Well, with that being said, though, just to kind of, you know, I always like to forecast here at the end of the podcast. For all of our listeners who stuck with us, you know, hopefully you found this interesting. We had a ton to talk about with the post Evo stuff, but with this actually should be the last interview only style podcast. I'm going to start lining up guests and we'll start to do the character stuff. So I know especially newer players or people who play casually, they love that shit. They love to hear the top players, you know, kind of reveal their strats and kind of guide them through the characters. So hopefully you guys will tune in for that and enjoy that. So other than that, that's really all that I got. I mean, I think we've wasted enough time with these people. So with that, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. You gave us a lot of material, that's for sure. And you know, obviously, congratulations on top 3 at Evo. Hopefully, we'll see you up there again next year. And other than that, that's all I got, kids. So tune in next time. I'll try to keep everyone up to date on, you know, what character and whatnot's coming next and who the guest is. So with that, I will call it end to the podcast. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you next time.